Ask yourself this: is there a broad archetype of a man that's just destined to be rich? Well, Patrick Bet-David has an answer to this that might surprise you, because the path to wealth is laden with multiple exits that you can take, and yet there's few core qualities that make it persist. And you know what? Perhaps Patrick Bet-David himself exemplifies that better than most people, because every man needs a value structure that costs nothing in order to attract opportunities in life, and I'm here to try to help you do precisely that. Keep in mind, this isn't financial advice. Subscribe to the channel and let's watch the clip before we dive in.
So what school did you go to? I didn't go to college. No, come on, Pat. What's university? I'm telling you, I never went to college. I had a 1.8 GPA in high school. Community colleges wouldn't accept me. No way. You're too smart to not. Come on, what college? I said, I'm telling you, I read 2,000 business books and I studied topics. So if I chose a topic, I bought 20 books on that topic and I read just that topic, that subject for 2 months. Then I went to the next topic and the next. That's what I did. So some people who want to say the rich people have these special gifts and all this other stuff. I'm sorry, you just don't want to read books. You'd much rather watch Netflix. So that argument is, I believe anybody can reach their capacity. Sure. Anybody has that shot, but it takes so much freaking work, pain, that not a lot of people want to go through. Don't get me wrong. Life happens to many different people. I'm not here to judge. But all I'm saying is the system of capitalism, the greatest system in the world that allows a guy like me, who doesn't have nowhere in my life you can pinpoint to say this guy was going to win a life. Not one thing you can pinpoint. Nothing.
Yeah.
Not one thing you can pinpoint. That's why I believe in capitalism. Versus my family believed in communism. My family believed in socialism. Now I'm like, listen, just leave me alone. Let me see what I can do. If my market's 50, I'm good. I'm happy because I'm giving my best. If my market pays 75, I'm happy because I'm giving my best. But if I keep bringing value to the marketplace, all of a sudden an opportunity is going to come up.
Yeah.
And you can't predict that opportunity. All of a sudden someone's going to say, you know what? We're going to do this project. I want you to be a part of it. Here's how it's going to work out. Freaking boom, your name pops up. What the hell just happened here? Because behind closed doors, rather than throwing the towel, you're giving your best. Capitalism works. It's those who don't work that hate capitalism, unfortunately.
You know how capitalism does that? It leaves open wealth up for grabs in the free market and fires the starting pistol for people to race towards it. That rouses two kinds of emotions, and I believe that is where we find the wedge that separates one kind of person from the other. Those emotions are fear and ambitions. Don't get me wrong, I understand how daunting it is to realize that there's no one ultimately looking out for you but yourself, no freebies, no socialist hammock, and no government handouts, and too many people are left paralyzed by that realization, only to deride the entire system of capitalism and harbor resentment against it. But here's something else it does. It incentivizes those willing to take greater risk for greater reward, to put their labor and talent to use for themselves as well as society at large. And as much as socialists might tell you otherwise, that's not possible. In a communist society where people with ambition and those with paralyzing fear are forced to be equal, it's only under a free market where that limiting cap on personal wealth does not exist, and wealth can be generated even if unequally.
I challenge anybody to do the following. Take 4 subjects: sales, negotiation, human nature, okay? Sales, negotiation, human nature, and money. Go to Amazon. I will fund this if somebody wants to do this. You do it, you come back to me, nothing changed, I'll fund the whole cost that you had here. 4 topics. Read every book on negotiation, above 400 reviews on Amazon, that's 4+ star. Read any book that's above 4-star, 25 of them, 400 reviews on sales. Read any book on human nature, psychology, persuasion, any of that stuff. 4-star, like how to win friends, all that stuff. Then read any book on money with 400+ reviews. Read Principles, like things like that by Dalio, by Buffett. And for 2 years, obsess over doing that. For 2 years, obsess over doing that. 2 years later, work your ass off and improve in a marketplace. Figure out a way to improve your attitude. Sometimes half the battle is people have some shitty, negative, unattractive attitudes. They're a crap magnet. Everything is shitty. Everything is complaining. Everything is somebody else's fault. Nobody is turned on by somebody that constantly blames somebody else. Nobody. When I was single, I would go on dates and I would talk to a girl. My last boss was a My last boss was an I said, out of your last 5 bosses, which one of them were all of them? I'm like, shit, it's not the boss's problem. It's you. It ain't no boss's problem. It's your attitude sucks.
Yeah.
Within an hour, you saw the attitude.
Right.
You read those 4 topics, 2 years. Work your ass off. Come back to me 2 years from now. Matter of fact, you won't even come back to me because you forgot about it because you're killing the marketplace. The market rewards people who outwork and out-improve. It's proven.
You know why? The market has to, otherwise it collapses. Here's an interesting perspective. Right now in the United States, there are over 8 million jobs, and yet still 70% of company leaders say there's a skills gap in their employers as they struggle to find the best people for the job. That means companies and entrepreneurs are always vying for talent that can enrich them, and they have no problem enriching such an employee in return. But that hard part is becoming that person of value first and knowing the sacrifice that goes into it before that happens. I remember someone once complained in front of me that if they worked at a minimum wage job, they'd give their minimum effort for it. While it seems fair at first glance, I told them that giving your least when you're being paid the least is a recipe for staying in that minimum wage job. The cold truth is at the start, nobody knows what potential value you have, and you need to give just a little bit more to gain enough momentum to rise up the ranks. Life isn't fair and it doesn't owe you anything, but that's what you need to do to get the ball rolling on your career in finance. And that's exactly what PBD himself did, rising from the bottom of the financial services industry in the early 20s. And if you want evidence of how that attitude has persisted, here's a rare clip of him at 22 displaying the same attitude to money and success that he carries now.
Mark my words, by the time this year is over, next this time, we'll hit at least 6-figure or more. And anybody that comes in my team will get close to 6-figure or more. Most definitely, just because of teamwork.
Perhaps some people are just born with that vigor and drive, but it doesn't mean that it can't be learned, or at least for limiting beliefs and to be unlearned. The decision you make at that junction in life is what separates the two types of people I mentioned at the start, and it's ultimately your choice which one to be.
Well, you're also an alpha. You're a hunter. There's a hunter-gatherer issue here. You know, and listen, we got a show coming up where there's a big conversation between the difference between a gangster and a racketeer.
Yeah.
And a gangster can be a racketeer, but a racketeer can't be a gangster. That's the debate. I think hunters can be gatherers. I don't know if gatherers can be hunters. Then Thomas Sowell, I think, said it best.
I don't disagree, but I will tell you something. I will tell you something in that part. Here's the other part. You ready? Okay. Do you judge somebody by their friends?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you judge a guy who's got a girl? How do you judge him? Or a gal that's got a guy? Like, let's just say girl married up or a guy married up. What do you say about that guy or that gal?
Must be something about him I don't know.
You know, it's just going to be like, you know what, good for him. That's what I say. Legit. You're a good salesperson. Good for you. Whatever you did. And you keep him, because you know how sometimes, you know, a woman marries up, but they can't keep the guy. And sometimes a man marries up, but he can't keep her. The challenge is also keeping. It's not about a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year thing. We're very quick to always blame the guy, but it's both people's jobs.
It's not about getting, it's about keeping.
It's about keeping. Anybody can get. Who hasn't gotten somebody, but can you keep them, right? That's the name of the game.
It's like in Seinfeld. Anyone can take the reservation, but can you hold the reservation?
True. Philosophy. You have to go that angle. But so going back to it. Here's what I would tell you. Going back to it. You know what I will say? This is what I will say. If you're a hunter, gatherer, whatever you may be, you're a hunter, you're a gatherer, whoever you may be, it's your job, if you're a gatherer, to team up with a hunter. And if you're a hunter, it's your job to find the right supporters. I'm not sitting here saying everybody is the same. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not saying everybody's an alpha. Not at all. I think there are people that are not alpha that are richer than alphas, though, because there's a lot of alphas that have terrible attitude that cannot coexist around other people because they keep getting in their own way. I know a lot of alphas that keep getting in their own flipping way. Sometimes an alpha may need to step back and say, look, I get it. I can win as a 1. I can win as a 2, but I'm going to be the sickest freaking alpha at number 4, number 6, and I'm going to crush it. And gradually I move up. What is the whole purpose of being number 1? Is that other people with personalities can coexist. If your ego is so big and you can't keep people around you, that says something about you.
It is incredible how financial success in an industry can be so closely mirrored by your social and interpersonal success in dealing with other people. And here's the great thing about that. Changing your attitude and behavior with other people comes free, and it can be a drastic push for you on the financial ladder. I remember Jordan Peterson once mentioned the story of a client in his psychiatric practice who said that he has a really hard time speaking and connecting with other people and thus faces loneliness and isolation. The client remarked that he really hoped that there was something wrong with him. Jordan asked him why he'd wish for something for that, and he replied that if there's something wrong with him, he can at least change it, but if there's something wrong with the world, there's nothing to do. And I think when PBD speaks to the difference between a hunter and gatherer, that's what it really means. Forging the hunter in you means going after what you want and being willing to take risks for it, rather than playing it safe and gathering what you can survive on. People with a gatherer mindset are both inevitable and necessary because not everyone has the gall and ambition to lead them like a spearhead in a capitalist enterprise and reap the financial rewards. That is part of why perhaps the blanket advice of not going to college that we see online financial advice circles doesn't work well for everyone. It's that realistically speaking, most people aren't going to be so driven and disciplined to genuinely use that time to hustle and grind that they tell themselves they do. And rather than wasting time, a lot of people would be better suited to a more traditional educational path because they can't handle the self-responsibility of learning and finding success on their own. But the small minority of people that actually can do that are the ones that are the engine of the modern capitalist world we find ourselves in. PBD is one of them, and that's why the financial insights he brings are dug up like gemstones along the way in his career. But let me know in the comments if you agree, because perhaps success inevitably is a function of the character that you are in your personal life and professional.